Always supposed to be. Here we go. Hi, it's Russ here, UFO Paranormal TV and Flying Saucer Television. And tonight my guest is Grizzly Chris. Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Doing wonderful, sir. How about yourself this evening?
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And so I've been, as you know, I'm an investigator, researcher, and I've, podcast, etc. And I came across yours, and sort of like, so now it's sort of like one of the number one sort of like shows that I watch. So, and I thought I'm gonna have to, I was so intrigued with some of the things that you were talking about, especially in the Bigfoot subject. But how did it all start for you? How did all this basically? How did you get into the paranormal and becoming a researcher, investigator?
So what happened is that, believe it or not, when I was younger, my grandfather passed. And we were down at the lake, my grandmother and I, and we had this big deck that was covered. And we know back in the old days, we had those aluminum doors on the deck that, and you know how the deck is when it warps and everything, the door, you have to drag it and it'll make that noise. And we had the bells on it. So this way, when somebody during the day, with the air running, with the window units back then, right? With the TV and stuff on, somebody comes on the deck or the porch and opens the door. A, you would hear the door, and two, you would hear the bells. Well, I got up around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to get something to drink, and I'm like, is somebody out there on the deck, on the porch? So I peeped through the curtains, and I'm like, oh, somebody's out there. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm sleeping by the door, I'm sleeping by the window, and I didn't hear anything. And I'm looking, and the person took a puff off a cigarette and half the face lit up. And it was my grandfather. And I'm like, what? I'm like, no way. I'm like, Grandma, hey, great. Hey, get up. And why is it, ladies and gentlemen, that when you want somebody to get up during a paranormal experience, they get up? Why is that? I tried everything to get her up. She would not move. And I'm watching him. And he just took another puff. And I'm like, this is not happening. I'm like, I'm not dreaming. So I go over there and I'm shaking the heck out of her. I'm like, Grandma, you got to get up. She's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, Grandpa's out on the porch. She's like, what? And I'm like, yes, he is out there on the porch. And she gets up and she turns the porch lights on. Because you know we had these porch lights well, back then they were made out of these little flowers that you hang up porch lights. And we had them all strung up. And she plugs them in and we go out there and she says, there's nobody out here. And she goes, was you out here smoking? And I'm like, aha. I'm like, what do you mean? I know. I was not smoking. That was him. So yes, there was cigarette smoke. And I'm telling you, ever since then, everybody on my mom's side of the family has came back. So my grandfather was a prankster, and he still comes back. He has came back even when I was on the police department to watch, because he was a police officer as well. So that got me started. And then as I was growing up, we had all these ghosts, TV shows started to come out. And that really got me hooked, because I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And that led into the Bigfoot shows. And I'm like, wow, does this really exist? And I was a big deer hunter. And I was oblivious to a lot of things that were actually occurring out in the woods, Russ. And I didn't know what things were and signs were. We didn't know. And I'll never forget the day my dad and I were out behind the house. He was like, son, do you smell that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, we just missed the deer. Oh, the hell with that. That was not deer, Russ. I know what that is today. That was Bigfoot. So nobody can tell me any difference, because deer did not smell like what Bigfoot smells like. So that is a very distinctive odor and it is very strong and potent. So yeah, so so paranormal led into the cryptid world, led into Bigfoot, and it just spiraled. And meeting other people that has encountered or had encounters, and get into investigating and actually reporting people that and actually have these creatures that live on their land. It's so incredible to hear these people tell their stories. Uh, they are flesh and blood. They can be killed. We actually have people that come forward and said, "Yeah, my granddaddy shot one." And I mean, it's just crazy. The government shows up, Indian tribe shows up, the black SUV shows up. I mean, where do you want to go? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, have you actually come across one yourself, a Bigfoot?
Yes. So I was actually talking to this girl, and then this is ironic, right? And we were FaceTiming. And this happened recently, and she actually has a bunch of them that lives on her property, and she was raised with them. And she goes out and gifts them and everything, and she has some abilities. And she was like, "Hey, it's getting ready to storm." Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It started to storm. And she was like, "Hey, Grizzly, it's getting ready to hell." And lo and behold, she took her phone and she took it to the window, and she's like, "Look, it's starting to hell." And she's like, "Look how beautiful it is." And I'm like, "Oh, stop, right there." She's like, "What?" So I was like, "There's Bigfoot." And she's like, "Look how beautiful it is." And then lightning struck and it moved. And she's like, "Yeah, I see it." I'm like, "I know, I want to see it." And it was probably about 7.5 foot tall. And it was a female. She confirmed it. It was one of the watchers. Now, turkey hunting, where I come from, I saw one. I didn't know it was a Bigfoot. I thought it was a person turkey hunting in a ghillie suit years ago.
Yeah.
But back then we didn't know, because I thought it was somebody on another farm, that snuck down the valley with me trying to get the turkeys where I was hunting. So yeah, they are real, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people do not want to believe it. That's why I do go out and interview people and tell their stories and have them on their shows, on my shows and our shows, so they can come forward and give their testimony. I mean, what do you think about them, Russ? Do you believe in them?
Well, there's evidence, there. Like a lot of in the sort of like paranormal field, there's clear witnesses of seeing these things. I mean, I live in the UK, so we don't have a vast area, but there are areas where there's known like cryptids, like these, if you want to call them Bigfoot.
Y'all call them woodwolves, right?
Well, I think really we call them the same, Bigfoot, but there's other things as well, like dogmen,
Yes.
wolfmen, and so we've got similar things, but I think more in the Midlands. There's an area that's well known near Birmingham, and there's North Wales, which I've been hearing a little bit about things that have been seen there, and then there's Scotland. So it's not as vast, but it would appear that there's Bigfoot about in the UK also.
Yeah. So Derry Bronson, we call him Derry, the guy that owns EMF band. I know you're probably familiar with him, the one that sung the song "Unbelievable." I'll do a show with him. Deborah Hotswell from UK.
Just a question for you from
Yeah.
Sandra. All right, Sandra. He says, what can you compare with a smell, to Bigfoot?
So here's the thing, Sandra. Some Bigfoot you cannot smell at all. I don't know why. Some of them smells like rotten garbage, urine, a dead animal, all combined in sewage in one. It is horrible
Yeah.
smell. And some of them you cannot smell at all. Does that indicate that they bathe? We have reports that they will put flowers and rub flowers on them to get the scent on them. Is that something they do to attract mates? I don't know. We've also have seen and heard that they'll roll around in fields of certain sweet grass. What does that represent? Is that to repel insects? Is that to keep ticks off of them? I have no idea. Now, with that being said, we have looked at a lot of Cherokee and other indigenous tribes in America.
Yeah.
And we have also found out that they have traded with the Indians within America and probably worldwide with other, ethnic backgrounds as well.
Yeah.
But they know how to clean their teeth by chewing different pods and different sticks. That's why we see sticks that are bitten, like toothpicks. We're just now finding this out. So it's very interesting. So if you would have asked me 10 or 15 years ago, do we have an ape primate running around in the woods? I would probably say, yes, we do. Now, if you had asked me that today, I would say no, because they're very intelligent. And when I say they're intelligent, these creatures, we find out that their DNA is 98% human and 2% unknown. And we have that information from Dave Pilates and Meldrum and somebody else in America, right?
Yeah.
We use eDNA, which eDNA has been kind of on the forefront of collecting DNA evidence. New technology is where you get it from water, to where anything that has touched a water, such as animals or fish or anything that's come across that water source, leaves trace evidence of DNA. They can tell you what's lived there, what's touched there, what's used the bathroom there. They can tell you any type of animal that's used that water resources. And it always comes back 98% human, 2% unknown. A lot of people that don't believe in the existence of this creature or Bigfoot or Sasquatch or however you want to call it will say, well, the evidence is contaminated. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been collecting this DNA evidence for years. It's not contaminated, because if it was, it would come back always inconclusive. We have almost everything in the world in databases we can compare DNA evidence to. That's why it's coming back unknown. So it's very interesting. Now, my question is to a lot of people that's watching the show, and this is not a trick question, Russ. I'm not trying to, roll a bus over you, but a lot of people don't know this answer. And I'm going to ask you, just for an example, Russ, what color is a polar bear?
Polar bear, white?
Yeah, you're wrong. See, a polar bear is actually black or brown. Right. And a lot of people are like, what? Yeah. So, and a lot of people right now are probably thinking, what is Grizzly talking about? So if you go out there and fact check me, ladies and gentlemen, Google what color is a polar bear. Google will tell you the polar bear is actually black or brown. The hair on the polar bear reflects and retracts light. It bends light. So it actually absorbs the surrounding of the polar bear. So this is where the polar bear absorbs the light of the surroundings. That's why it is white or a yellowish tint. So when people get hair samples out in the field and they don't know what it is, and they put it underneath the microscope, the light either bounces off the hair or it absorbs the light. And that's why we have that cloaking technique to where, it disappears, right? And this is where people say the animal cloaks, and it just disappears in the tree line. So now stuff is starting making sense. I'm actually seeing a video of Barb Shoop. She's a very well-known researcher. She owns a lot of land in America. Back in 2014, she had an iPod 4 duct taped to a walking stick. And on her property, she had a people, and because she has a family of these Sasquatches that live on her property, and she was with, I think, 7 or 8 people, and she saw this flash of light. And next thing you know, she saw something just go, and she's like, "Did you see that? What was that?" And they went back and they put it up on the big monitor. Now, this is 2014, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
And they put it back on the big monitor, and the guy slowed her video down. And what it was, it looked like something came out of a portal. And when they slowed it down, it looked like 2 ape hands grabbing vegetation and running and pushing it out of the way. And they're like, "Do what?" So they went back to the scene. And when they went back to the scene, they found Bigfoot tracks, and they were 1 inch deep, and I think they were 16.5 foot long. And I want to say about 5.5, almost 6 inches wide. And they were, I think, 4.5 to 5 foot in stride. So the thing came out running. But when they dissected it, it was 2 of them that came out, not 1. So Hollywood went back and looked at this video, and one of them evidently came back to see what the group was doing, and it cloaked itself like Predator. Now, this scared the living bejeebies out of me, because this is the first time I ever seen a Bigfoot, alleged Bigfoot, actually cloak itself like the movie Predator, like the alien Predator. Now, Hollywood went back and tried to debunk her footage. They said it was a squirrel. They said it was a leaf on a tree. They said it was an alien. They said her iPhone, or not her iPhone, her iPod was not tampered with. They could not figure it out, and it's actually on her YouTube channel where you can check it out herself. So that has changed a lot of things. And this also goes back to people's encounters, to which we have over the years, for the 15, 20 years that people have reported, to where you and I, Russ, will be out in the woods, and we'll be standing there and we'll hear, but we won't see anything, but we hear and feel the air go by us, but we don't see nothing. And people are like, we feel the ground shaking. We see the limbs moving. We see the bushes moving. We hear something rush towards us. We feel the air come off of us, but there's nothing there. So now we know that this creature's cloaked itself. In the Cherokee and other indigenous people are like, yeah, they cloak themselves. I'm like, well, hell, why didn't you tell us that? And well, things are now coming out of the box, and people are coming forward and telling us that. Now, in 2008, the U.S. military made an announcement that they can make a rabbit and a goldfish disappear by cloaking. They have the technology back then to actually cloak. They use cloaking technology today to make tanks and warships disappear on battlefields and out at sea. So if they had that technology in 2008, right, where did they get that from? How did they develop that technology? So I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. There has been recent sightings on YouTube, I think, that are legit, to where somebody's out there walking and they're like, "Did you see that? What was that?" And they go off running, and they're like, "Something was right there behind that tree." And I went, I don't know, it's not there, but it went right behind the tree, and there's no way. I've got it on film, and it's not there. And we know that Sasquatch or Bigfoot, somehow these creatures can interfere with electronics. They can make your cameras malfunction. And this is where a lot of people are like, oh, here we go, Russ, another blob squab picture of Bigfoot. This is why we're seeing a lot of people go back to old technology, wind up cameras, 110 cameras, 35 millimeter cameras, because they're getting better pictures. Because this way you don't have, that digital camera doing all the autofocus and the auto, exposure and whatever else it does for you. Instead of you doing it manually. And a lot of people are like, well, just put trail cameras up. Well, we also realize that they know where trail cameras are put. I don't know if they're seeing the infrared on them because they're being ripped off trees. They are being turned. We have pictures of people sending pictures in from trail cameras where there are sticks waved in front of them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't get me wrong. We know that there's little Johnny in a drunk suit, an ape suit, drunk, causing havoc. We know they're hoaxes. We know they're fakes out there. Granted, we're going to have those.
Yeah.
But when you have an arm, with a stick, and you got hair standing off of it 4 or 5 inches, across the nation that are similar. I mean, you look at the totality of the circumstances, not every one of them are going to be fake, now the problem we have is with CPG, AIG, AI, all these new computer generated. Now it's even harder to determine, is this photograph or video real or not? Now, Russ, if you're out in the field and you send me a picture, you're like, Grizzly, look what I got. I'm going to probably look at it a little bit harder and probably, Russ, you probably have something. Because I get a lot of pictures and videos from people that investigate things. And a lot of people ask me.
I've got things that you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I believe you. I really do. And they always ask me, Grizzly, is this real? And I always say 2 things. Number 1, I wasn't there. And 2, I didn't take the picture or video.
Yeah, I've put a lot of my stuff up. Me filming a UFO and getting zapped. And you can see it.
Wow.
For a split second, a second, there's a light. But when you slow it down, so you've got 60 frames in that second. And there's about 20 frames where there's balls of light actually coming down where I'm filming. So I'm the guy filming and I'm getting hit by what the UFOs just shot down at me.
Oh, wow.
But I've got flying triangles coming out of the bay. I live in the seaside and we've got a bay here. And I took 2 videos of 2 flying triangles coming out of the sea and taking off into the sky.
That's
I filmed
crazy.
all sorts, but the thing is, talking about the infrared, I put some video footage up a couple of weeks ago, and there's something. I put a video camera, a security camera up, because my walking's become really bad. I'm in a lot of pain, so instead of walking, I've done the lazy thing, and that's put the security camera up. So I put this up, and I've got this thing, and people saying, Russ, it's somebody pointing a torch, And I'm saying it's not, because I went outside and I'm filming, but yet I can't see anything. I'm looking with another infrared camera, and I can't see what's there. But yeah, the other camera can.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. So we have actually reports of that. So we don't know how that is actually transpiring. We actually get report of that. We actually get report that they cook food. We actually get report that they do fire. So a paranormal investigator like you or myself, right? And I have a bunch of these. And I mean, when I say a bunch, I'm trying not to drop all of them. These are just a few, and there's probably like 4 or 5 more above my head. And we always loved tape recorders, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
I've got a guy in Kentucky further south of me, and this is no fun, no pun intended, but he'll take one of these and he uses Gorilla Tape, and he'll tape it to a sign out in this country road where Sasquatches are. And for hours, they will take rocks and try to knock it off the sign. And you'll hear dink,
Wow.
dink, donk, dink. And they will just toss rocks and objects at it to try to knock it off. And then we also have reports to where they will go out in campsites and pick up these recorders and turn them off. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you never played with one of these recorders,
How do you know how to turn it off?
yes, they turn them off. They power them off. Either you have to hold a button and press it, or you have to slide a button and hold it down to turn them off.
How will they
And they
know
put
that?
it back. Not only that, they will go around to campsites and they will confiscate these and turn them off. Then before you leave, they will put them back and stack them and say, all right, well, they don't actually say this, but
But
on the
you
way
know the
out,
meaning.
yeah, they'll
Take
be
it with
like,
you.
take them with you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are people that are like way off the beaten path. And these people that go out in the woods camping and go out on these Sasquatches investigations are very well armed.
Yeah.
And I don't think any man is brave enough to go into a campsite with these people and play jokes on these characters. Now, does it happen? It may. But when you get these reports across the country in America, then you got some validity to some of these stories and encounters. So what's going on? So, and then, we get, stories and encounters where we got this one guy, he's got Cherokee blood in him and heritage. He'll go out and he'll be like, OCO. And the guy's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, I'm talking to him. He's like, what'd you just say? He's like, I'm asking their name. And they'll respond to him back in Cherokee and tell him no. And the guy just like freaks out. Take me home. Take me home. I don't want to be out in the woods no more. You're freaking me out. Are you punking me out? I'm like, so do they know languages? Yes. Do they know English? Yes. It's crazy. Ron Moorhead, he's one of the big Bigfoot people in America. He's one of my admins in one of my Facebook groups. And we talked about one of his books at the beginning of the year about quantum Bigfoot. And he said, like we talked about 20, 30 years ago, we talked about Bigfoot being interdimensional and whatnot. We would laugh at you. We know it's flesh and blood. But now, with what we know from people coming forward, not only do we have to think outside the box, now we have to look over the top of the box, because there's a whole lot more that we don't understand. We can't just put science to these creatures. We can't put mathematics to answer the equations. Our minds cannot fathom and understand. There are a lot of non-believers and skeptics. Yeah, how can an 8 or 9 foot creature walk around the woods and, can't be found? Ladies and gentlemen, they are out there. They are being found. We have people that come forward. They have been shot and killed. Mount St. Helens, allegedly, have been reported. The government has, vacated the bodies. The forest fires out west in America. The National Guard recovered bodies, told the firefighters, get lost. We take over. Those right there belong to us. You are not here. So, yes, the government's always involved. Have they been hit by vehicles? Yes, they've been hit by vehicles in America. Of course they have. But, the Fish and Wildlife and the government covers it up, because in America, you don't get on the radio being a police officer and dispatch is like, oh, we got to report a Bigfoot on 103 Maple Leaf and attacking a house. We need to send an officer over there. They call it bears. They call it bears is what they call it. That's what they refer it to.
Wow.
So, yes.
So because I've been watching quite a few programs on YouTube and on television. There's a few things that I've noticed, and that is that some of these like symbols, what they seem to have in the woods, you know, sort of like are very similar to the alphabet, the runic alphabet. Have you come across these at all?
Yeah, so a lot of people, what they commonly see are the X's. The X's, the tree bends where the trees are
Yeah,
bent over. The X's with the stick in the middle. So what we're finding out by the different Indian tribes is the X's mean to the other Sasquatches that are traveling means welcome, not to white men, is what they call us, right? But to the other Bigfoot clans that are in the area, that means welcome to the area. The crosses, the X's with the stick in the middle,
yeah,
means keep out, do not enter. That's what we're being told. And also, the people that are out there that gifts these creatures, they will leave trinkets, they will leave food, and so forth. We had this one guy, and we always tell people, do not gift them, do not feed them. It's just like that cat or that dog. Once you start feeding them, what happens? They keep coming back. We had a guy in America that gave, let's see if I can get my hands, a peanut butter jar about this big, about that big around, and we call them Sam's here. It's a big
yeah,
Super Walmart, Sam's Club, and
yeah.
6 jars of those a week to this one outfit, one area. But it wasn't by his house. He would have to drive 37 minutes away. And the neighbors knew what he was doing, and they always told him, as long as you stay on that side of the woods, we're okay. Well, he got sick, and he wasn't able to go out there for 4 weeks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he wore the same clothes, the same backpack, and he was on a time frame. And every time he went in the woods, he would clap and let him know he was there. And he had, I think, 2 or 3 spots he would drop these off. These creatures were so mad that he did not show up. They went to the neighbors' houses. Huh?
I bet they went to his house.
No, they went to the neighbors' houses and caused
no.
havoc. They banged on the houses. They tore the vinyl sidings off the houses. They broke windows. The neighbors didn't know what to do. They called the Fish and Wildlife. And the Fish and Wildlife put trail cameras up to figure out who this guy was, and they got his license plate number. And they went to his house. They're like, hey, we need to talk about you and these bears. And he's like, bears? They're like, these peanut butter jars? We're going to cite you for littering. We're going to cite you for criminal trespassing. And you can't even, like, bears? He's like, what do you mean? Bears don't put peanut butter jar lids back on there. And he actually put dates on the top and the bottom of the jars so he can track these jars in the woods at different gifting stations, right? And because they were throwing them back at the houses like, hey, feed me, feed me. You know, that's how bad it was. One guy was so scared, he put his house up for sale and moved his family. That was bad. And this guy came on the air crying because he was afraid that they were going to come in and wipe these Bigfoot family out and kill them all. So, you know, and once again, you feed these creatures, right? And they get on a routine, and they do love peanut butter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is going to sound funny, but they do not like crunchy peanut butter. They like the smooth kind.
The smooth. And myself.
Yes.
It must be my DNA.
Yeah. So, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So they do get aggressive. So, yes. So they're
now
not
the
always.
Other thing, the other thing I was going to ask. So there's the X's. You know, the sort of like. There's also, so it's been said, there's like balls of light. Some people call them orbs, and some people call them balls of light, different colored balls of light and sometimes quite large, not little balls, but quite large balls of light. Have you come across people talking about that also?
Yeah, we have a lot of encounters and reports that people say that. So the best thing to look at things is the police jargon is totality, and totality means is everything as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at people's reports and encounters, we look at a lot of key factors, because a lot of people say, you know, they either see a UFO before or after Bigfoot encounter.
Right.
People say they see orbs either before or after a Bigfoot encounter.
Yeah.
So, you know, are they related? It could be. You know, I've never seen a UFO and a Bigfoot come off a UFO.
No.
People have say they've seen UFOs and Bigfoot around UFOs. I've never seen that. Does that
No.
mean it does not exist? No, because for us, every time that I say I'm going to draw on line in the sand, I have to erase that line and move it forward. So at this point in life, I don't even draw a line anymore in the sand, because every time I do, we get these monsters that washes up on these beaches across the world that nobody knows what they are, these creatures. And the first thing the government does, they dig a hole on the beach and bury them. Now, why is that? Do they know what they are and we don't? So, you know,
Would look like it.
is there, you know, some kind of intelligence, you know, because there is a theory that's out there that Bigfoot, you know, has come from another world that was dying, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousand years ago, and they came to Earth. Some theories that those are the following watchers from heaven, the following angels. Then, you know, so I mean, there are many theories. Yeah, there is no experts in this field. Only thing we have are theories, and you know, in encounters, and that's what we base our information off of. So we try to come together as a community and take everybody's encounters and stories and put them together as pieces of a puzzle to try to digest and figure this beast or animal or creature out to the best
Yeah.
of our knowledge and share information. That's how we try. That's my goal, at least.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've actually seen this on a show where they've been, you know, sort of like tracking Bigfoot, and then all of a sudden they realise that they're being tracked. And what's more is that something moves in front of them as such, and what they realise it is like shadow people, you know. But yet there's you know, to cause a shadow, you've got to be in the middle, you
Right.
know, and they're looking, and there's nothing there where something should be, you know, sort of like to create that shadow. And again, this is around areas where there's Bigfoot. So have you heard about these shadow creatures also?
Yeah, so we hear a lot of that. So anytime that you have a Bigfoot or any other cryptid creatures around, uh, for example, we have, I won't say her last name, we have this one lady, Barb. She has Bigfoot and other cryptids on her property. And a couple weeks ago, about 4 o'clock my time, she has that Ring doorbell camera and
Oh
security
yeah.
cameras on her house. And she lives out in the woods, ladies and gentlemen. And she was sending me pictures. She was like, I see her up. She's like, what is this? And I was like, they're Yahweh's off Star Wars. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, these are these little creatures in robes that
Oh my God.
scavenge out in the desert. These the parts, and it just scavenge out, not the Ewoks, but the
No.
little things in rows with little eyeballs that glows. And she was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, we call those elementals: earth, wind, fire, and water. These are other creatures that exist out in the wild, you know. And like in UK, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of people for the longest time made fun of me because I said fairies do exist, and they do. And we had on one of my shows a fairy when I was interviewing a lady with abilities, a psychic medium, flew in front of the camera. And I was like, did y'all just see that? That was a fairy. And she was like, her and her fiance was like, yeah, we have fairies around the house and they drive us crazy. They like to play. And I was like, that thing had wings. It had legs. It flew right in front of the camera. Everybody's like, oh my God, we saw that. And I was like, yes, they do exist. And then we got on that tangent about the difference between an orb and a fairy. So, you know, not going to be biblical and, you know, talk about God or anything like that. But in Genesis, it says God has created creatures seen and unseen. And there are things that walk upon this earth that shall not walk or should not exist, but it does, because we are told, ladies and gentlemen, from what we are grown up with, what is real and what is not real. And once again, science, we cannot just say this is real, this is real. No, this is not real, you know, because we are proven, you know, with science that, oh my gosh, this did exist 250 million years ago, or this did exist 200 million years ago. We thought it was a folklore or a myth, right? And now it's coming to reality. But, you know, and there's places, what is it, in Ireland or Scotland, and they believe in not dwarfs or elves, but leprechauns, where they move the roads around because the rocks.
Right,
yeah, I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen, there's some validity to this stuff.
That's right. A lot of people have it's folklore and legend.
Yes.
And funnily enough, not far from where I was abducted is two things. One is a druid's altar, but just over the road is a famous place called Cottingley, where they filmed the famous Cottingley Fairies.
Saying?
You've heard of the Cottingley Fairies, haven't you?
Yes.
And Conan Doyle went to have a look. Well, about 2 miles from where I was abducted is where that the sort of like the little stream, the beck, run through the garden. So it's a very mystical area, and there's a lot of other things being seen around there, like wolfmen, spring-heel jack, and pixies, fairies, and also giants.
Yes.
You know, we've got giants. There's again, just not far from where I was abducted, is a place called it's a moor, you know, moorland, and it's called Romble's Moor. And when I looked up Romble's Moor, it says it was named after a giant, Romble. So, you know, these areas are full of folklore and legends. You know, it's unbelievable. So I do understand about these elementals, you know, and these creatures, you know, from other, you know, sort of like, well, you could say dimensions, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the truth. And, you know, we have CERN, you know, that's, you know, trying to play God, open up portals. We got people in America that's open up portals in their homes. And yeah, I do believe in different dimensions. You know, we have Jennifer Green, I think, that allegedly caught a portal being open and a Sasquatch coming out of it, 2 of them.
Wow.
And we actually aired that footage, and it was not computer generated.
No.
But once again, you know, with the technology, unless you know the person and know the history of the person, it's we really have to be careful, ladies and gentlemen, especially for the non-believers. And I understand where they're coming from, but I always tell people, if you do not believe, come with me. You know, I mean, I've got 26, 27 dolls above my head in my studio. And before the show, I had 2 of them that flew off the shelf and landed 3.5 feet from me, next to my hand, next to my mouse. And they are haunted vessels. Some of them have attachments, and I have not scientists, but my psychics will tell me this. So paranormal stuff you don't believe in, come with me. I'll take you on a journey. Watch my live shows. And people in the UK, I can hook you up with if you don't believe. You got your UFO abductee right here and UFO experiences, which I'm going to have you on my show, by the way. We're going to talk about that once we get off the air. But, and that's the thing is, I respect people that don't believe. I understand that. But hear me on this. The ones that don't believe are the ones that always comes back to me that have PTSD, that crap their pants, that cannot go in the woods hunting or fishing, hiking, or anything like that anymore, because they come to me so emotionally disturbed because they saw something that they've said that never, ever existed, and they can't fathom why they saw that creature or that monster they want to call it. So go figure.
Oh,
strange, isn't it?
Yeah. Some people have just got, some people don't want to really believe in what they might have seen themselves because it's too much to comprehend.
It is a lot for them. And, and I understand that. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up with Godzilla. Run for your life. You remember that, Russ? Remember the black and white Godzilla? And with the video and the audio never matched up to the guy's mouth. I mean, that caused me nightmares when I was growing up, right? And then we had Jaws and stuff. And
I had Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Yeah, there we go. So, but
and the
I grew up in
fishmen.
the country. Yeah, I grew up in the country, so I saw a lot of things in the sky that I was like, "What is that?" Because back then we didn't have stuff that did that stuff that flew that way and have beams of light and didn't make noise that flew over real low. Now, people are seeing tic-tacs and skyscrapers that are a mile long that's flying on its side. I mean, now, ladies and gentlemen, now, do we have technology that exists to this day? Yes, we do. But a lot of that stuff that are being seen, we can't explain that. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
So, I mean, it's wild.
From?
Right. That is correct.
Where did it come from? And the thing, who's flying it?
Right. Yeah, because the human body cannot take that kind of G-force. No. I mean, the thing is, it's like, I always see people saying, the truth's coming out and, like disclosure. And the thing is, it's like, you'll see something in the newspaper or the headlines on the internet, and it'll say, something like Pentagon, telling you about, UFOs are real. But when it comes down to it, they've never said that. They've never, aliens are real. They've never said aliens are real. And the time that somebody did mention that aliens were real, they retracted it. They retracted the story. And this is a big thing. And I keep on explaining to people, we're not going to get the truth from the government or the military. Definitely not from the military, the war machine, and the big businessmen that are in politics. Come on, be real. They're not going to tell. They're not going to tell the Joe public that there's aliens and the craft and that we're actually fighting a war. There's a war going on, which most countries are involved with at least 10 different alien races, and I should know because I've been fighting amongst them. And are the government going to tell people, oh well, there's these soldiers and they're fighting aliens and
You know, some of them are aliens themselves. Some of them are from this planet. You know, some are our own troops, our own soldiers from the United States and the United Kingdom. And, you know, are they going to tell people that? And how many people a year go missing around the world?
Well, I think you could blame that on Eisenhower. Was it back in 47 that Eisenhower allegedly got caught out in the middle of the night for his emergency dentist appointment?
Yeah.
You know, and he went to the hangar and signed the treaty with the aliens, and and then you got David Pilatus with the missing 411. Allegedly, that was part of the treaty where the aliens can abduct people from the national parks in certain parts of the country to do experiments on.
This is what's intriguing. You know, listening to you, and when you were talking a couple of weeks ago, you know, and you were saying more or less, you know, about some of these, you know, these Bigfoots, you could call them evil. It's some of the things what they're doing and killing people.
Yes, sir.
But some don't seem to be. But yet some are really good at what they do. And then they're closing these areas down. That's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It is. So we know, talking to the indigenous people in certain Indian tribes, that these Bigfoots, and ladies and gentlemen, I know that this is a hard pill to swallow. You know, it really was hard for me to understand. They have, how you say it, they have structure, they have rules. They have hierarchies, and if you don't follow the rules, they excommunicate your butt. They kick you out of the clan. And these are the renegades, and these are the ones that attack people and kill people. And these are the ones that they think that are causing people to go missing in these national parks. In one of the national parks, like Land Between the Lakes, LBL, for the Dog Man. They've actually, since the attacks in the late 80s, closed some of the park down and let it overgrown to keep people out of it. And this is not the only park that they've done it to. So people don't go back there, and they let these creatures, whatever you want to call them, have run over this area. I mean, it's just crazy. So back
that is unbelievable.
It is.
What
now back in the Midwest. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What happens then when they start, you know, so if they start getting bigger numbers and then moving out to another area? What happens then?
That's the problem. So in America, they do not keep track of missing people. There's no statistics on that.
Really?
And why is that? Money, tourist attraction. You don't want to know how many people goes missing in Yellowstone or whatever park you're going to. You know, how many reports is it that you're walking around a corner with 15 people, and Russ, you're 15 feet in front of me, and you walk around the corner, next thing you know, you vanish. What in the hell? And nobody knows where you're at, or you and I are hunting in a park, right? Because it's public land.
Yeah.
And you're 80 yards away from me, and, you know, I walk around a tree and sit, and I lean back, and I can see you in Hunter Orange, and 2 hours later, I don't hear from you, so I go down, and you're gone. Your clothes are not there. Your gear's not there. Your rifle's not there. And then, you know, 100 people look for you for 3 days. They don't find a trace of you. Now, what in the world happened to you?
Yeah. Wow. That is incredible.
It is. It makes you wonder.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. I mean, you know, I had the shock a few years ago. It was about 10 years ago, finding out that we had 180,000 people in the UK go missing a year.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, the thing is, from last year, right, the numbers have gone up to 300, and I think it's 350,000 people now a year.
That is a lot.
So, the numbers have gone up significantly over the years. And now we're at the stage where, over 250,000 people in this country and Ireland, there's something wrong. And I was speaking on BBC Radio about it, BBC Radio Leeds. And at the end of the day, the presenter says, "Oh, this is too much for me." To
Wow.
realize that, this many people are going missing. I think she was taken back by it. Unbelievable.
Are they suspecting trafficking, or they don't just have no clue at all?
Well, they didn't say anything, because if they say trafficking, they've got to then look at the impact on the people, on the police. In that case, the police aren't doing their job right then.
Right.
So, and there's a big thing, like over here, people are not very, how can I put it? They're not interested in what happened to the police. They see the police as a big problem. They see them, getting paid a lot of money for doing nothing.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, if it isn't trafficking, what else could it be then? And then it's the unthinkable.
Yeah.
If it's not being trafficked, they're still going somewhere. Well, I know myself, being a super soldier, I know what happened to people. Unfortunately, we're talking about alien abductions.
Yes.
People will not, it's not palatable, is it, to think that aliens are taking people?
No, I mean, I've actually talked to a lot of people over the years that they have been abducted. I've actually talked to people recently this past year or late last year, especially female and male, to where the eggs have been harvested from the females, and they've been reunited with their children and shown their babies. And we hear the stories on TVs and so forth, and to hear them being recounted. And these people have been hypnotized and validated. But the ones we don't hear, or the men being abducted and having their sperm stolen from them. Now, that's very rare. I don't hear many reports about that, but I'm getting an increase on those reports.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I would agree with you.
So that's an influx on that. But, a lot of people ask me, is there more happening when it comes to aliens and cryptids? Are we seeing an influx or a rise in it? I say we are, yes, but I think there's two folds to this. I think we are seeing an influx in that, and I also think there's a less of stigmata to where people are more feeling easier to come forward and saying, "I'm Russ, and I've been abducted, and I know I'm not the only one." And it's making it easier with people like you doing these shows for people to hear other people to have these encounters and saying, "I'm not alone, ladies and gentlemen." And that's what got me to get involved years ago, to help other people to have a safe haven for people to come on and say, "Hey, I'm not alone." And this is what happened to me. And when people hear and see that, other people come forward. And the same thing with my Facebook groups. I have it to where they come on and post their issues in their encounters, but they can do it anonymously. They don't even have to post their name. They can hit a button and put whatever they want. And nobody knows who they are to get it off their chest. Because a lot of people, it's taken them 20, 30 years just to come forward and saying, Russ, this has happened to me. And I know you've encountered that. I mean, I watched your videos and stuff, and I'm impressed with what you've done. And that's hard. Because I know you had to been ridiculed over the years. And people, you know, I see what people's done to other people. And it's sad. It really is. But it's a reality. These things happen to people.
Yeah, and the reason, you know, the reason why they happen is because people, you know, do say and get away with saying things. And I mean, one of the worst lot of people that I have come across for it are people that are supposed to be in this subject. You know, and some of them are the ones that say things have happened to them, but yet they'll ridicule other people. But
Right.
I think myself, they're only ridiculing other people because they know that what they say has happened to them is BS. And other people know that what these people are saying is BS. And it's their way of trying to get back at the people that have actually had things happen to them. You know, but they're inconsequential. You know, like, you just don't bother. You know, like, let them say and do what they want. And we just move forward and we tell, you know, this is what's happening, whether you like it or not, you know.
Right.
But, well, listen, the hour's up. You're going to have to come on again because there's
absolutely. I enjoyed it very much.
So many more questions to ask you about this and about other things as well. And, you know, like dogmen, werewolves and what have you, and other cryptids, you know, what have been seen.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I'd be honored to.
So, well, I'll say, Chris Grizzly, thank you very much for coming on the show. And it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you and to everybody who's come on not named. And Sandro, thank you for coming on also. I've just seen you there again, sorry. And I will say good night, God bless to everybody.